Exodus 34. The Lord meets with Moses on the mountain. The passage begins with the Lord commanding Moses to create 2 new stone tablets, just like the first set that he broke. He tells Moses to be ready early in the morning and meet him on the mountain. No one is to come with him or even be seen on the mountain. Not even the animals are to graze in front of the mountain. Verse 4, So Moses did just as the Lord had commanded. Early the next morning, he went up Mount Sinai, carrying the 2 stone tablets. Then the Lord came down in a cloud and stood there with him. And the Lord said, My name is the Lord. This is the second time that the Lord reveals his name to Moses and the people of Israel. But now, there is more to the name than just a declaration of identity. The name reveals something about his character and how he treats his people. Look at verses 6 to 7. The Lord, a compassionate and merciful God, patient, always faithful and ready to forgive. He continues to show his love to thousands of generations, forgiving wrongdoing, disobedience, and sin. He never lets the guilty go unpunished, punishing children and grandchildren for their parents' sins to the 3rd and 4th generation. God declared his attributes and then gave reasons why he could be trusted to fulfill his promises to Israel. Verse 8, Immediately, Moses knelt, bowing with his face touching the ground. Verse 9, Then he said, Lord, please go with us. Even though we are impossible to deal with, forgive our sin and the wrong we have done, and accept us as your own people. Here Moses intercedes on behalf of the people, acknowledging their sin and asking God to forgive them. Look at verses 10 to 13 as God responds to Moses and makes his promise again to Israel. Notice the conditional phrases like if you or when you, indicating that the blessings promised depend upon Israel's obedience. Verses 17 to 26 contain a number of commands from God. They are reminders about what Israel has already been taught, such as not making idols, celebrating the feast of unleavened bread, setting aside the firstborn sons, etc. These commands will be repeated later in the law given through Moses, in verses 27 to 29. God tells Moses to write these words down, because he is making a promise to Israel based on these words. Then Moses stayed there with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights. Without food or water, he wrote down the words, the 10 Commandments. Verse 29, Moses came down from Mount Sinai, carrying the 2 tablets with God's words on them. His face was shining from speaking with the Lord, but he didn't know it. How does Moses not know it? How do you not notice when your face is shining? How could he not look in a puddle or a reflective surface to see his face? Is he looking at his feet, writing the 10 Commandments on the tablets? Verse 30. When Aaron and all the Israelites looked at Moses and saw his face shining, they were afraid to come near him. What are they afraid of? Are they afraid that if they touch him, they'll burst into flames? Are they afraid that Moses will start levitating? Verses 33 and 34, when Moses finished speaking to them, he put a veil over his face. But whenever Moses went into the Lord's presence to speak with him, he took off the veil until he came out. Whenever he came out and told the Israelites what he had been commanded, they would see that Moses' face was shining. Then Moses would put the veil back on until he went in again to speak with the Lord. The veil symbolizes the limitations of the Old Covenant. It was a shadow of the reality that only priests could enter the Holy of Holies. But in Christ, the veil is removed, and we can behold God's glory openly. Colossians 3:13. Therefore we also, since we have been made clean by him, and the things that we have confessed, let us cleanse ourselves from all filthiness of the flesh and spirit, perfecting holiness in the fear of God. Key teachings. God gives second chances. Though Israel sinned, God graciously renewed his covenant, showing his mercy. God reveals himself through his character. Compassion. Grace, patience, love, faithfulness, and justice are at the core of who he is. True worship flows from knowing God. When Moses saw God's glory, he bowed in worship and intercession. Covenant loyalty requires separation. God warned Israel not to compromise with pagan nations or adopt their practices. Obedience preserves holiness, the feasts, Sabbath. And offerings reminded Israel of God's provision, redemption, and holiness. God's presence transforms his people. Moses' shining face symbolized how being in God's presence changes us. The veil symbolizes limitations of the Old Covenant. In Christ, the veil is removed. We behold God's glory. Openly, 2 Corinthians 3:13-18. Spiritual renewal requires discipline. Moses. Fasting and dedication remind us of the seriousness of seeking God. If you'd like to learn more about the character of God, check out the series Know God. Have a great day, and see you next time.